Hi everyone, welcome. I'm just going to wait for our attendee list to just increase slightly for those that are joining and connecting to audio. I hope you can all hear me clearly. If you can't hear me properly, please just let me know in the chat. Welcome to you all today. I hope you've enjoyed our Oxford MBA virtual open day sessions that you've been a part of so far. If you're just joining this session fresh, then welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm really excited because I'm running the student panel today with Shrajita, Noose, Motaz, Marine and Hugh. So we're really looking forward to answering all your questions today. So do send those in through our Q&A function and we're going to try and get through as many of them as possible. I'm going to kick off the session with some pre-prepared questions, but we'll keep an eye on that Q&A function and hope to cover as many of your questions that come in as possible. Before I jump into the pre-prepared questions, I'm just going to hand over to our panelists just to give a quick bio introduction. Nothing too strenuous, just a quick 20-30 second intro. I'll start with Shrajita first.
Hi, so I'm an MBA student at the University of Oxford. Prior to this, I was working as a consultant / research consultant for about 6 years. I'm actually an economist by training prior to that. And I'm also co-chairing the Women in Leadership Alliance here at Oxford this year.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just go in my screen order. So now on to you, Noose.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Noose B. I am from Côte d'Ivoire. I was previously based in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, where I worked as an impact investor in a fund dedicated to funding small and medium companies. And previous to that, I worked in investment banking. So I joined the MBA in September, and I am also the co-chair of the Africa Alliance this year.
Thank you so much. And now on to you, Motaz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Motaz. I'm in the MBA of this year's cohort. I am Middle Eastern from Jordan and from Canada as well. Previous to the MBA, I was in consulting with Deloitte Consulting in the Middle East. And yeah, looking forward to talking to you all today.
Thank you so much. And Marine, you next.
Hey everyone, my name is Marine. I come from Singapore. Before MBA, I worked as a merger and acquisition deal advisor with PwC and a boutique consulting firm specializing on financial technology sectors in emerging markets. Very glad to meet everyone today.
Thank you, Marine. And last but not least, Hugh, please.
Hey guys, I'm Hugh. I'm a current MBA student from the UK. Prior to doing my MBA, I was a lot of things in arts and media, but most recently I was a film producer. I worked for basically the last 2 years making commercials for Apple, amongst other people. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So I'm just going to quickly jump into our pre-prepared questions, but do keep those questions coming into the Q&A box. I can see one or two that have come in. So Motaz, if I start with you first, when did you start to consider applying to an MBA in your professional journey? When did you start to think about that being an option for you?
Good question. Well, I'm in consulting, so I always sort of knew I wanted to do an MBA during my career. But recently, just before the MBA, I reached a point where I started sort of gaining more responsibilities, started managing projects, which included managing team members, managing delivery of the projects, and managing client stakeholders. So what I wanted to do is to sort of broaden my leadership skill sets in terms of people management and project management, all of that. And I also wanted to accelerate my career in consulting. So I knew that the MBA would sort of be a boost to sort of my career path within consulting. So that's the first part. I think the second part is I also really wanted to broaden my international network. I've worked between Canada and the Middle East. So I've always sort of had the thought in my head that I'd work internationally in the future. And I thought the MBA was a great way to do that, having so many different diverse set of backgrounds culturally and regionally. And it's a good way to sort of build your network. And then I think the third part would be, when the pandemic started, I thought it'd be a good time to start studying for my GMAT. So I thought it was, an opportunity for me to utilize my time and utilize sort of working from home also to start working on that journey. And that's when I decided to apply.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And then if we move on to you, Maureen, what was the main reason for you choosing the Oxford MBA?
Yeah, good question. There are three reasons why I choose Oxford. Firstly is because the MBA program offered at Oxford is a one-year intensive program compared to most of the two-year program offered in North America. And I think this is actually a very good accelerator programs for students who already established their career path. So they are actually looking for like a catalyst in their career progression. So the one-year program really meets the demand and the expectation for this group of people. And the second reason is because Oxford is one of the most integrated university in the world. So I did enjoy the diversity in terms of the student cohort as well as the curriculum we offered at Oxford MBA. For example, there are 71 nationalities in our cohort this year. So during the class, we are sharing our views and opinions from everywhere on the world. So this is quickly form a worldview for leaders in the future. So I think this is very, very attractive for me. And the third point is because the outside MBA program emphasizes a lot on social impact. And this impact element is actually embedded in all career paths as well as the curriculum aspect. And this actually marks a very big difference compared to the business-oriented MBA program. I'm definitely happy to elaborate further on this point if anyone is more interested about the impact career.
Oh, thank you so much, Maureen. And Noose, if I could just ask you, did you speak to alumni or attend any information event sessions before prior to applying for the MBA?
Yes, actually I did. I talked to a few alumni. So most of them friends of mine who were already in touch with those alumni, introduced me, and I was able to ask many questions. I was quite concerned about the cost of the program, about the opportunity to have scholarships, and also, of course, the experience in the classroom. So talking to them really helped. So particularly, I have a very good memory of talking to an alumni that I met after one of these events, a student panel made by the Africa Alliance. I was slightly concerned that I was quite experienced, and I wanted to know how it was for an experienced student, to be in a full-time program. And these students really helped me answer this question, telling me how I had the full experience being full-time, and how it was great, as an African student also, experiencing Oxford and MBA. I also had the opportunity to come to Oxford. I was based in Côte d'Ivoire, so it wasn't very easy, and that was pre-pandemic because I actually deferred. So at the time, I was wondering how I can really engage with the school. So I took advantage of a trip in Europe to come to Oxford, and that was great to meet also the admission team and answer all these questions about scholarship, about GMAT, about the curriculum. So yeah, all these things were extremely helpful to me.
Oh, amazing! Thank you so much. And Hugh, if we move on to you, what did you see what challenges did you foresee with there being with a one-year program as opposed to a two-year program? And what was your motivation behind joining a one-year program?
It's a really good question. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Of course, like the challenge of a one-year program is essentially it's like it's a surfboard on a rainbow. There is obviously so much to do and take in and to learn in such a quick way, but also you are kind of having to, there's a big challenge there. It's a big challenge in like being able to self-regulate and know, what energy and effort you put into what. And it's kind of like, it's not slowing down, and you've got to either keep up the pace or prioritize like where you put your efforts. But I also would say, along with that, of course, that's quite tricky. But I would also say that the benefit of it being a one-year MBA is that you have very, very close connection, and I mean, we only been here for just under 3 months, but a very close connection with your cohort, and you all exist in this time for a year, not to get all hokey about it, and like you don't have a crossover with another year, so you're very much kind of like everyone's fully in it, it's 100%, and then and when it's done, you're out, and you've all experienced the MBA in Oxford at that time. And I think that is something that actually is so much more valuable than maybe having more time to learn, if I'm being completely honest. And I think, I mean, and of course there's all the additional elements of, you're only 1 year out of work as opposed to 2, and all those other very sort of boring factual things. But I think the main thing is that actually it's that kind of like shared experience with other people in a very sort of pressure cooker style experience is invaluable. And I mean I learned that in the first week. It's and I think it's actually a really, really special thing, but it doesn't mean it's not chill. There's a lot of work to do.
Oh, thank you so much, Hugh. And Shajita, if we move on to you, what parts of the Oxford MBA curriculum interested you the most during your application process and prior to applying? What was it that attracted you to the program with regards to the curriculum?
Yeah, there are so many though, but looking back, and now that I've experienced some of these courses myself, I think that I'm in a better position to kind of figure out which one truly excites me. So I think the global opportunities and threats, which is GoTo, is like a fantastic program that we are all sort of getting introduced to right now, and we'll start working on it in the next term. And it's a team-based course where you work on really complex systemic issues. And the idea is to kind of break down these complex problems into smaller issues that you're able to solve as a team. And you also get support from faculty and tutors. So that's one. And then the Entrepreneurship Project, which also, again, we'll get introduced to in the next term, is another really great program that kind of introduces you to the critical skills of entrepreneurship, and introduces you to the idea of creating a new venture. And again, you work with a team, so you either bring out your own ideas or you work with smaller organizations and startups who are working on their own business plan that you can help out with. And I think the underlying theme throughout everything that we do is this idea of working together in a team. So even in the first term, even though we didn't have too many team-based projects, we had study groups. And I think it's just an amazing experience to learn from each other. And the study groups are like deliberately put together in a way that we are all from very diverse backgrounds. So it's just really a fantastic way of learning together.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. And just going to go around again with some separate questions, but I noticed that there has been a question that's come in the Q&A about OBN. So Motaz, I'm going to pass over to you. Would you be able to give us an insight into being involved in an OBN and your role in the consulting OBN, more specifically, if I can talk today? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, for those who don't know, OBN stands for Oxford Business Network, and it's sort of a student-run club or sort of an extracurricular group that sort of helps manage that specific industry or that specific topic within the MBA. So the OBN position for me was a good chance for me to build my leadership skills. Like I mentioned before, that was sort of the goal of me coming to the MBA, and knowing that I wanted to accelerate my career in consulting. It was a good opportunity for me to run for the election, and I was successfully elected as the co-chair of the consulting OBN. And I knew that I wanted to be part of the OBN before the MBA. So what I did was, before the MBA, the school sort of connects you with your upcoming cohort, and you get to sort of chat with people, whether it's virtual or not. But so what I did is before the MBA, I found some great people that I connected well with, who were also interested in running. So we set up our sort of co-chair team. We brainstormed ideas and set up sort of what initiatives we wanted to run in the consulting OBN. And we came up with a bunch of initiatives, ran for the election, and were elected as the co-chairs. And the OBN is all about sort of setting the objectives that you want out of the OBN and how you can support your cohort within that topic specifically. For us, it was consulting. So what we did is we split our initiatives into 3 sort of segments. One would be consulting exploration. The second would be sort of helping with recruitment and networking. And then the third would be for interview prep. So for consulting exploration, we knew that a lot of people were explorers. So they weren't from the consulting background, but they were considering it post-MBA. So we were running sessions to sort of facilitate and explain to the cohort what different types of consulting there is, like impact consulting, operations consulting, strategy and technology, and so forth. So it's sort of a knowledge transfer kind of initiative. The second would be recruitment and networking. So we're setting up events with different recruiters from different companies to come to talk to the cohort. For now, it's virtually. And then the third is interview prep. So we're setting up also initiatives to support with case preparation, for McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, fit interview prep for all the consulting companies and so forth. And what I really liked about being the co-chair is, first of all, it's another channel to build relationships with your peers in the cohort. So, people reach out to you, you reach out to people, so you end up building those relationships with your cohort. And then the second is it also benefits you personally because it teaches you a lot more about the industry that you're in, and it helps you build your network with recruiters and companies within that industry. So that's sort of the gist of the consulting OBN experience for me.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I've also noticed a question has come in about colleges. So Hugh, I'm going to pass over to you. Would you be able to give an overview of the collegiate system from your perspective and how this was potentially a deciding factor in your choice to come on to the Oxford MBA and the process of choosing a college? It'd be great to get a little bit more of a personal insight from you with regards to that. Yeah, for sure. It's a very ancient tradition, and I have only been involved in it for 3 months. But I think that it's obviously a very unique sort of part to Oxford life, and I think probably obviously you can't become a member. You can't be enrolled. You have to be enrolled in Oxford. You have to be enrolled in the college. And obviously for postgrads, it's slightly different to undergrads, but for me, it's very much part of your, this might sound a little nebulous, but this is very part of your Oxford, I guess you call it identity. And obviously there are, I think 39 colleges, correct me if I'm wrong, in total. And they range in ages and I guess specialities and history and stuff like that. But it's very much kind of enables you to ingratiate yourself within the Oxford world, certainly from like outside of SBS as well. Is a really, really big point, is that there are people, I'm in Oriel, for instance, and there are people in Oriel who are doing, well, they're doing everything, and it's your opportunity to be around and meet people who are obviously very different to you and what you're studying, but different walks of life and stuff like that, but also gives you a grounding within your course. I've got, I think there's 8 or 9 other people in Oriel on the MBA, and we've all become really close because we sort of share that. And I appreciate this is a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but it's quite an enormous thing to encompass in one answer. But really, it essentially becomes part of your identity. You are affiliated with that college really for the rest of your life. And so from a selection standpoint, depending on which round you apply for, you have a list of colleges which have a certain availability of intake of postgraduates, or for the MBA, and you then will select which college that you want to always apply to. The only application is essentially who you are. It all goes from there, and they sort of assess as to whether you'd be a good fit based on essentially who you are. I actually don't know, because I just got, they said, yeah, it's good enough to get in. And then from there, then essentially you are, when you matriculate into Oxford, it goes through your college, you go to essentially your kind of, trying to work out how the best way to put it. Essentially, it's your conduit for life in the university. Is that a good enough answer? I feel like That's a good enough answer. I feel like I should be much, much older to answer that fully, to have the complete history. But from my experience, that's really the MBA life via the college sphere, should we say? No, that's great. And from your perspective, any standout events so far that you've attended with Oriel?
Well, I've been really lucky. Oriel, because I was very, very, they're all very old, but Oriel is very, very, very old. So we had an official induction ceremony into Oriel where we walked over the road from Oriel to St. Mary's Church, and we were formally inducted into the college. We signed the provost book. There was lots of Latin and organs playing and stuff, and that was excellent. But also, I think, to be honest, within the big thing is sort of college dinners and actually kind of being part of the. It's going to sound very very MBA, but being part of the sort of college ecosystem and kind of having a shared experience with a lot of other people. And obviously, some people, I'm privately renting, I live in Jericho, but a lot of people actually live in the college, and obviously their experiences is very, very unique. So being part of it and being able to bring other people in to experience that as well, that's fantastic. That's been one of the highlights of actually being at Oxford, really, is to kind of be a host for people. Yeah, it's a fantastic experience.
Amazing, thank you for you. Shrujita, I'm going to pass on to you now. In terms of your part of our Oxford Women Leadership Alliance, and I just want you to tell our audience a little bit more about your role and the application process, and share some insights into potentially what you're planning for the upcoming year and your engagement as part of the wider group.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a very unique thing about Oxford is that we have like 44% of our cohort is women, and that's one of the highest numbers for any business school across the world, which is something that we are extremely proud of. And when I was applying to Oxford, I was already part of a lot of women's affinity groups in previous organizations that I've been a part of. And that's something that I wanted to carry forward with me when I came into Oxford, and I wanted to help build this community really of women. And here's this group of really amazing women who've come to Oxford from very diverse and varied backgrounds, and we just thought that me and my co-chair and the other committee heads in the Oxford Women in Leadership Alliance, we just thought that it would be amazing to have this community and form connections that would kind of last us a lifetime, because we're all going to go ahead and be leaders in different businesses, so it would of course be an amazing thing to have all of these connections. In terms of the application process for the Women's Alliance, I talked about my experience in previous organizations, being a part of the affinity groups there, and also my work outside of my professional career. I've been involved in different volunteering organizations where I've been associated with women's empowerment, women's education, and those are things that I highlighted in my application. And to answer your question about the goals for this year, we started the year with a survey of all the Alliance members, just to get a sense of what it is that our peers really want. And so we've had a couple of speaker events so far. We've gotten women leaders from different organizations to come and talk to us about their experience. We're trying to set up mentorship programs with, between the MBA and the EMBA, other cohorts within SBS. We'll have a few networking events across the year, and of course we have a lot of things planned around March, which is International Women's Day, so we are currently working on that. Yeah.
Amazing. Sounds really, really exciting. Noose, I'm going to pass over to you because I know you're also a member of an alliance, the Africa Alliance, which you're in fact a co-chair of. Could you add a little bit more to Shrujita's comments about being part of an alliance, your advice to those who are potentially going to come in and join, and what the application process was like to you, and also some of the exciting things that you have planned for this year too?
Yeah, sure. So the Africa Alliance is really part of the strategy of the school to really put forward everything that's going on in Africa, and spotlight Africa as a continent of the future. The school leadership felt that it was important that any MBA student had this knowledge and got more acquainted to all these overarching theme about Africa, and especially what's related to business. So that's basically the mandate, the first mandate of the Africa Alliance. The other one is to try and encourage African students to join the school, and to make it easier for them. Of course, it's a tough programming. You're all in this process. It's a tough application process. You want to spotlight. You want to reach out to the best African student and inform them about this opportunity, and also try to find some scholarships for them. As a co-chair of the Africa Alliance, I'm working on all these aspects. There's a development piece where we're trying to get some new donors to fund the school. We're organizing specific recruitment events, outreach. So we recently did a student panel like that, dedicated to African students. We are going to organize a few speaker series throughout the year to bring some, very interesting actors of different sectors in Africa. We're actually trying as much as we can to organize this event with OBNs, because we are very much aware that those because we have this geographical overview, we want to benefit from the experience of our colleagues, our classmates, with a sector approach. So we did that with the Media and Entertainment Club, and we're also looking at some collaboration with the Women Alliance and other OBNs as well. Like the climate piece will be very important. We know that it's a subject that impacts Africa a lot. And the big piece we're going to work on is the Africa Forum. It's our flagship event that happens in March every year. This year, we are going to reflect on the youth of Africa, navigating opportunities and challenges. So that will be a great opportunity to gather the school communities and bring some very exciting speakers to talk about what are the challenges of educating the young African workforce, bringing all these skills to them, finding work for them, and all these issues related to having seats at the table for all these African youth. So that is going to be a very exciting piece in the year, and you're all welcome to join. Very similar to Sujita, the application process was about writing about everything, all my experience related to supporting entrepreneurs in the past, like my passion for Africa, and for sharing all the great things and great innovations that are occurring on the continent, and be able to transmit that to my peers. So yeah, that was basically the good inspiring speech, written speech, and then CV review. So yeah, that was basically the process, and I'm happy to have a great team. The committee is made of really passionate and passionate classmates, and we're going to make many things happen this year.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. And, again, really excited to see how all those events play out, and, excited to also be a part of this. So that's really, really great to hear. Maureen, just the final question to you for our pre-prepared questions before we jump into the Q&As. Could you tell the audience about your experience with the Career Development Centre so far, your engagement with the career coaches, or maybe sessions that you've attended in the last 3 months, and how you're working with those people to help support your post-MBA career goal?
Yeah, very happy to share on this point as well. Regarding to the career development, we actually have a very dedicated, strong team in charge of the program design. And as a student over the past 3 months, because I come from a finance background, so I'm more involved in the finance track. So for example, we have a finance laboratory. So this is more a student club for students to polish their financial technical skills, for example, financial modelings, and as well as a lot of case competitions during the class is kind of help us to prepare for the interviews as well as how to interact with the senior professionals working in the field. And at the same time, we do have a one-on-one career talk between students and the career coach at Said Business School. And I personally find that this session is like extremely helpful, because this is a session that when you get some seniors' advices and guidance to understand where you are now and how to bridge the gap between where you are and what you want to do in the future. There are a lot of personal advices. For example, not just the technical skills you need to pick up. It's more about the methodologies, how to position yourself, how you prepare for your personal brandings. And I find all these methodologies are very, very valuable. And it's not just valuable in terms of job seeking, it definitely carry a lot of lasting long-term impact when we step into the new positions and develop our career in the future. And I think something more I want to mention to continue with Hugh's point is we do have a very good ecosystem for entrepreneurs and startups as well. For example, we have Oxford Foundry as well as the Seed Fund. So this is more like a two sides of one coin. We actually have a lot of students, they actively involved in this cycle. Some of them, they launch their business through this fundraise, and some of them, they source their jobs in the startups where they are interested in. And I personally find this is very good point for, this is a very good ecosystem for students who wants to get things done and who carries a strong can-do spirit to join Oxford. Yep.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maureen. I'm going to jump into some of the Q&As that have been coming through. Thank you so much for those who posted questions. So I've got a question here on a few questions that came through on tips and tricks for preparing for both the Gmat and the Kira assessment. Does anyone want to take that first question in terms of how you felt you were able to prepare for the Gmat or the GRE, and then also with regards to the Kira assessment? How did you feel in terms of, I can see Hugh with his hand up, in terms of the preparations for that, and what did you put into place? Hugh, I'll start with you. Oh, Hugh, you're on mute. The most common phrase of 20.
So embarrassing. I mean, that is so embarrassing, isn't it? I'm in Oxford. With regards to that, the Gmat and the GRE, I am not in any way, standardized tests are and were my kryptonite, and I actually did both. Because I you know, not and definitely don't have a sort of mathematical background making films. So it was a lot of going back to, you know, basics. Personally for me, I would say that like the preparation for things like the Gmat, obviously it's very, very specific to who you are and kind of how you work. I was very much a case of like little and often, but it took a long time. I mean, like my timeline, I came to the Oxford, the MBA open day in like October 2019, and then I applied in January 2021. So obviously global pandemic in the middle, which, you know, we don't talk about, but so it was a long road, and it did take me a long time, and obviously I utilized that time quite well. But quite well. I just used all the time I had. But it was, you know, for me personally, as someone who is very like non-traditional, with a non-traditional background, like it does take longer than you think. But it isn't insurmountable at all, in any way, shape, or form. And especially if you're, you know, I think if you're used to standardized tests, you have a massive advantage. The only other thing with Kira is a really good example, like that, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's you can prepare for it as much as you can, but it's not necessary to find who's got the most polished answer or the most kind of thing. It's I think to get a general vibe about who you are as a person. I think to see if you come across as genuine and as, you know, as you know, essentially like a real human being, as opposed to a pre-prepared thing. That's why it's designed in the way that it is. So I mean, the genuinely the biggest piece of advice I give on that is just don't stress about it. And I know that's easy for me to say, being on the other side of the fence, but it is, the more the more you stress, the more your adrenal gland goes, the more you don't end up being able to do anything. And I think it's just about just coming across as you, not necessarily being like, oh, well, he used a word, this word instead of this word. It's not that specific. It's generally about getting an understanding of who you are without being in the same room as the people who are assessing, watching it. That's what I'd say.
Thanks so much, Hugh. Any further comments to add to that, or I'll move on to the next question?
Persistence with the GMAT is key. I actually sat the GMAT 4 times and then sat the GRE another 4 times separately. So I was obviously very desperate to get in, but it takes a lot of like emotional resilience and stability, because it would be a roller coaster, should we say. But it can be done because I'm here. So yeah, maybe
what I would like to add to that, and that was great feedback that was given me from a few alumni and also the admission teams, is the GMAT and GRE is important, but it's far from being the only piece, or the most important piece of your application. I think probably at Said more than other schools, there is a real care, for looking at your application as a whole, and not focus too much on the GRE or the GMAT as a single element. So really, do your best, but also try to be consistent on all part of your application, because that's what the team is going to look at.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to a question here. Since Oxford has a huge legacy, I was wondering what the culture at Oxford is like. Does anyone want to give their personal overview of the last 3 months, how you found the culture to be at both Said Business School and the wider university? Happy for anyone to jump in, or I'll start. Don't want to put anyone on the spot there. Shujita?
Sure. I'll talk about SBS first. I think that we have an extremely inclusive community, and I feel like personally, I feel like I can just be myself, and it allows you to kind of be your best self in the school. Everybody is so appreciative of the diversity that the school allows for, and I think it's just it's a great community. It's a great place to have conversations with people coming in from very different backgrounds. And in terms of the whole university, like Hugh mentioned earlier, I think the college gives you an opportunity to interact with people outside of SBS. So you have a lot of interactions with people from very different programs. And then I think the most number of interactions that I have had outside SBS would be at the Oxford Union, because that's a place where, again, people from different programs come in, and you also have the opportunity to witness some amazing debates, amazing speaker events. So there's a lot more to do outside of just SBS, and that gives you the true feel of the university. I can see that Marine has put her hand up, so I'll let her continue.
Thanks, Shujita.
Yeah, hi. I'm happy to continue on this point. I think besides SBS, we are actually part of the college system. And to be honest, what impressed me most is about all the traditions here. For example, the matriculation days is kind of like immerse yourself into this whole Oxford atmosphere. And at the same time, I think every second we are making hard choices between academic, career development, and school activities. For example, a lot of us, we joined the rowing club, which is one of the tradition at Oxford as well. And Oxford Union is kind of like emphasizing on our social awareness and the debate culture, and not to mention about the formals here. So I feel like it definitely trains how we kind of like balance our time, and it's kind of like feel the spirit of excellent pursuance, how to network, how to build like sustainable and impactful networks. And this is the Oxford life that you should look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Maureen. I'm going to jump into another question here. Have your long-term career goals changed before and after joining the program? So really interesting. So Did anyone's goals change, whether it be throughout the summer, in the last sort of month? Has anyone, their insights completely changed and you've been drawn into something else, or perhaps interested in something that you didn't necessarily feel you might be? Motaz, I can see your hand up, jump in.
Yeah, as I mentioned specifically, so my goal towards the MBA was to accelerate my consulting career. So I was coming into this, I was strictly focused on consulting. But then once you get in, once you see all the OBNs, once you see all the sort of intellectual thought, intellectual curiosity of all different industries, you start gaining interest in other industries. So for example, for myself, I've seen a lot about impact and sustainability and climate change and things like that. And that's something that's caught my interest recently. I think I'm not sure if this is going to shift my career path in any way, but I do think the amount that I've learned about, about sustainability and about impact is really going to change my career going forward, even if I stayed in consulting. Learning about all these different industries, I think it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to go into that industry, or you should shift your goals. But I think, all the learning that you do and all the knowledge that you gain is really going to impact your career one way or another, wherever you're working.
Amazing. Motaz, while I have you, there's a question that's come in about consulting events and people transitioning into consulting. Do you have people who are currently part of the OBN that are hoping to pivot into consulting, and what steps do you see from being an outsider, because you're obviously in consulting? What steps are they taking to make that transition and make that a successful transition? Yeah,
Oxford sort of categorizes people's career trajectory in three ways. So you're either a explorer or a transitioner or a accelerator. So a lot of people in our program are explorers, and being the co-chair of the consulting OBN, I see a lot of people coming from a non-consulting background and looking to get into consulting. And although all the consulting deadlines are just coming up very soon, so we don't have really any statistics on who got jobs and who didn't, but from my conversations with alumni and different people from different consulting companies, you really don't need the consulting background to get into McKinsey, Bain, BCG, whatever it might be that you want to get into. When you do your MBA, the industry knows that you might be shifting from one industry to another, and it's all about your achievements and your impact in your career and your academics. So there's a lot of people, working hard to get jobs in consulting firms, but at the same time, I think there are specific steps that you can take. Us as an OBN, we're running sort of CV workshops, we're running case preparation workshops, fit interview workshops, and things like that, just to enable not just people with consulting experience, but everybody, including explorers, on how to sort of portray their image and their brand, so their self-brand to the employer when they get interviewed.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Nise, if I could just not put you on the spot, but just a question here on group works, and it might be a chance for you to talk about, maybe the class representatives and how that works. But from your personal perspective, how have you found the group work setting here on the MBA, and how is that structured for your curriculum? Could you just give some examples of your day-to-day life on the MBA within the group work setting?
Yeah, sure. So the groups are set for the first term. So currently we are at Michaelmas term, and we've been assigned to a study group. For me, this has been a great experience. The school makes sure that the participants are from very diverse background. So in my study group, I have someone from the US, from Canada, from India, from Nigeria, and we have really different experience. So you can tell that this has an impact in the way we approach work, and I think it's been very, very valuable. We also try to support each other, especially when assessments are coming up. So right now, I'm really counting on the support of my study group, like trying to bounce some ideas, or even trying to get some specification or answers to my questions. So I think that's really, really good. We're probably going to change in the coming terms because we're going to start with the new term, we're going to start go-to, for example. So we're going to to be mixed with other teams, which is going to be good to be exposed to other people in the cohort. But I feel like for a lot of people like me who've had a good experience with their current study group, we might want to keep the relationship going throughout the year, and be there for each other, because we also discovered the program together. So I think that's quite special. Yeah, I'm very happy about that experience.
Amazing, thank you so much. Another question here on what do you think personally made your application stand out when applying for the MBA? So what skills and experiences were you highlighting and making sure that you were getting across to the admissions committee whilst you were completing your application? Motaz, I'll pass over to you. I'm loving the virtual hand, guys.
Well, I think this is a kind of an open-ended question, but in my experience, as long as your application portrays your personal brand and what impact you've made in your career and your academics before, you should be good. I think the one thing to focus on is really wording your accomplishments to be very clear and show the impact that you've made not only to the company you worked for or the school that you studied in, but to society and to yourself. So really just show the impact of what you've done, word it very clearly, and be yourself, not only in the application, but in the interviews as well. I saw a couple of questions about interviews. The schools, I think they're looking for people from all, a wide range of diverse backgrounds, and there's no one specific thing that you can do to generalize how you stand out. But as long as you portray it in the right way, you portray your message in the right way of who you are and what impact you can make, I think you should be good.
Great. And to the rest of you, are there any further points to add to Motaz's points? Yeah.
I haven't figured out how to do the virtual raise hand in person. I'd say, for me, I'm slightly in a different pool to Motaz. Obviously, I think my background is not quite like traditional MBA, so I think I may have had that, I would say, advantage, but differentiating factor innately. But I think Motaz is right in the sense of talking about things of like not necessarily like a sort of show and tell of how impactful you've been on society, but more in the sense of like how you can a kind of holistic understanding of like where you've been and what you've done, but also give an insight into like, I don't know, not who you are or your life, but just a little bit more than a shopping list of your achievements. Essentially, that to me is a big thing. And if you can kind of show, it's a fine line and it's a balance, but if you can kind of just be a little more, if you can kind of show like a human element into like the impact that you've had, in your career, or kind of like what you've done has kind of like where you put that out there and how that's indelibly tied to you, that's really, really good. And I think that can kind of really help. And of course, like if you're applying to business schools, what certain things will look best, but peppering in different other things. I think I was in, I think in my CV that I applied, I put on that I was in the Les Miserables film. I'm not quite sure if that helped, but I'm sure, I don't know if anyone else had been in the Les Miserables film. We applied to this MBA. So it's kind of like just having you showing off a sort of unique element to you is can do you a lot of good. Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you for that. Just conscious we've got 10 minutes, so I'm just going to try and get through the last couple of questions that we haven't answered yet. So there were a couple of questions on case-based learning and how beneficial you found there to be case-based learning. And Maureen, I think you're actually a member of the finance lab, if I'm correct. Yep. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about your insights into the finance lab, because that's something obviously we haven't really discussed today, and case-based learning and how beneficial you found that to your professional journey so far.
Yeah, very glad to share on this point. I think most of our core curriculums, as well as, for example, the consulting club, as well as finance lab, we prepare a lot of case discussions. And one advice I give to the coming cohort is be open-minded, because some of us, we come from, for example, financial technology background. But then when I encounter healthcare cases, I realized that there are actually a lot of new knowledges I can pick up from operations perspective, which I kind of get a new perspective of viewing things about the original sectors I come from. And the whole process is about how you structure your ideas, how to present your findings, your ideas in a very concise and impressive way, and how to apply the knowledge you learn from the case to the current affairs. For example, what we learned about the agile operations or like the Toyota operations methodology are still very classic and relevant to today's world. And that is exactly the student project we work on for a month. And this kind of application process is really interesting. So that's what I find exciting about the case-based studies. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Maureen. Shujita, if I can just pass on to you, in terms of references and thinking about people who are going to provide you a reference for your application, how did you go about choosing the references that you chose in the end to support your application, and what did you feel it was important that they addressed to support your application? Because we do have a lot of questions coming in about how they can support you best with your journey.
Yeah, so in terms of whom to ask, I think it really depends on your personal relationship with the people that you work with. For example, I had a very open and honest relationship with my manager, and he knew about my plans to apply for an MBA, and he was very supportive of my goals. And so I felt very comfortable asking him for a letter of recommendation. I am aware that not everybody is comfortable going up to their direct manager and asking for a recommendation. And in that case, I think you can work with people that you've worked with in the past, or like a project manager that you're comfortable sharing the news with. And it's important to kind of pick a person who knows you well, rather than just a really senior person in the organization because you think that that title might be important. I mean, while they may be very senior, if they don't know you well enough, then it kind of defeats the purpose of getting a recommendation from them. So I would just recommend getting it from somebody who you're really comfortable with. So I picked my own manager, and you need 2 letters of recommendation. So the second one I got from a project manager that I had worked with in the past, and she was no longer part of the organization. She had moved on, but I was still in touch with her, and we chatted quite often. And again, she was somebody who was really supportive of my decision to do an MBA. And in terms of how it can support your application, I think it's important that they don't repeat what you're already talking about in the application, and it would probably be beneficial if they can provide anecdotes around the things that you're already talking about in the application. So more like a supplement to your application, rather than just repeating what you've already got in your own essay. And so I discussed with both of my recommenders what I wanted them to highlight, because I'd worked with them on separate projects, and they knew about separate strengths and weaknesses of mine. So instead of being repetitive, I made sure that they both wrote about unique points, and that also supplemented my essay.
Amazing, thank you so much. Just coming on to a final question here. Nus, if I could pass this over to you. In terms of, you've got a very busy year, all of you do as individuals, and obviously Nus, for you being one of the co-chairs and being part of the Alliance, how will you manage the recruitment expectations for what you're putting on yourself in terms of achieving post-MBA career goals? And what would your advice be to those who are obviously actively looking for a role during their time on the MBA, but then really keen to get involved in lots of extracurriculars too? I'll open that up to all of you individually, but Nus, if you could kick off that conversation, that'd be great.
Yeah, so probably be the least able to respond to that, because I've actually planned to come back to my company after. The great thing about the MBA is that, once I put that forward, and my company was very supportive of that, they actually offered me a new project to work on when I'm back. So, but what I want to focus on during the MBA is really how to think about, the next step, and think about this career vision that I want to build for myself, which I think the career development is really, really helpful with. So I'm trying to to do all the coaching sessions that we can benefit from, and all the tests to determine what kind of a leader I am. So more this than the actual recruitment process. So maybe I'll let my colleague answer more precisely.
No, I think it's a really great point to touch upon, because I think sometimes people think when they come onto the MBA, and if they're returning to their employer, they might not engage with the Career Development Centre or potentially attend many of those sessions. So I think it's really great to hear from your perspective that you're obviously, still keen to get involved with that. Hugh, if I could pass on to you with regards to that, what's your plan in terms of balancing the year ahead, but then also trying to meet those recruitment, whether they're structured hiring or the opportunities that are out there available to you?
I came here very much with a kind of understanding of where I could go, but with I'm very agnostic as to what that might be. I really came here because I wasn't going to find it doing what I was doing, and I knew that this would put me in best stead to do whatever on earth it is, and surrounding yourself with 354 other people who are very different to you, who have a very different understanding of life, work, business. It is very inspiring, but it helps you to kind of contextualize what you've done, but also where you want to go. So I'm, in the explorer camp, where I am essentially just like soaking up everything I can, trying to work out where I might be able to sort of apply myself. But the thing is, there is so much kind of on offer from a career standpoint, looking to the future. And again, what's really great about it is you can kind of tailor it to your own way of working. So my career journey up until this point has been, not that it hasn't been planned, but I've come from a very unregulated industry, so it's much less structured, and you can work in that way, or if you are very used to kind of a structured, working within either your traditional MBA like industries, or the way that these industries hire, you can work in that way, and it can kind of it's essentially yours to mold. But it's not like go ahead and go and find it and good luck. It's very much like, here's this sort of oasis of potential opportunities for you to consider as to whether they might fit for you, and you go on that journey being facilitated in that way. That's a very fluffy way of saying it, but I think that generally in my experience up until now has been the case, where it's the first time in my life I'm not particularly worried about what's going to happen. I'm very confident, because of what we're all doing here, that I'll be in a position that I'll be far better off than I was before, but also that you don't, currently like I said, we're like 3 months in, and I don't need to know right now, and I have the opportunity to discover it, and I know that the opportunity, if you like, to discover it is being presented to me, and I'm on a journey to do that. So it's very much like, however you want to do it, it works for you, which it feels like sort of magic as far as I'm concerned. It's a bit witchcrafty, because I'm not quite sure how they've managed it, but they do, and it's fantastic. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Hugh. And then I think just to end, we've got, about 1 minute left. So just some final pieces and words of advice from you all for those who are in either a similar situation to what you might have been last year. What advice would you give to those that are potentially either applying in stage 3 and 4 or looking to apply for next year? What advice could you share from now being on the other side of this journey? That can just be our final question to all of you. So Shrujita, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think so. I actually applied in round 3 myself, and I can completely relate with people who are feeling very anxious about applying in later rounds, because you hear very often that your chances are lower when you apply in later rounds. That said, I would still encourage folks who are still looking to apply in round 3 and 4 to just put in your best. And I think between all of us, we've kind of covered all of the aspects of the application. If you haven't spoken to your recommenders already, I suggest doing that as soon as possible so that you're not waiting until the last minute to get your recommendations in. I'm sure you've all kind of already given the GMAT and GRE and whatnot. And if not, again, like, do that as soon as possible. But really just focus on telling your authentic story. Don't worry too much about what the school might be looking for or what an ideal student looks like. Just focus on your own story and be authentic. And that holds true for both the application and the interview process.
Thank you, Shajisa. And Maureen, if I pass over to you, any words of advice?
Yeah, I think to all the prospective students, I were you last year at this moment of time, so I totally feel you. But I have to tell you that this is just the first step of a long journey, and I take this journey as redesign your life. So be focused. Like, it's good to have a goal in your mind, but at the same time, be open-minded. Take this chance to understand yourself, so you can open new opportunities to yourself in the future. All the best.
Thank you. Motaz, if I pass on to you.
Yeah, I really like the point Maureen mentioned is you have to be open-minded when you come into this MBA. There's so many things to experience, whether career-wise or personally with your new friends, your new networks. It's a brand new city that's honestly amazing. So you really should be open-minded in terms of new experiences. And yeah, I mean, you should definitely look forward to this experience, as it's, everyone I asked in my cohort mentioned that this is probably one of the best experiences they had in their life. So look forward to it. Don't be anxious, and it should be great.
Thank you. And Nus, if I hand over to you.
Yeah, so I think you should really believe in yourself. It is a process where you might be impatient to know what's going to happen, but be patient. Don't censor yourself while you put yourself out there, and leverage a lot on your support network, your colleagues, your bosses, your former bosses, your friends. Some of them might give you some insight about your strengths that you did not really realize, or you're a bit shy to write down and to put forward. So leverage on this network for the quality of your application, and also to help you with this impatience and this anxiety that you may be experiencing. And good luck to you all.
Thank you. And Hugh?
I would say, firstly, and this might be a little bit soon, but I would say reach out and talk to the admissions team at Oxford. They've been really, really helpful to me on the very long journey I had. Appreciate that if you're applying now, that you might be, that might not be top of your priority list. But I would say, like, yeah, the whole idea of like being yourself and authentic and stuff, it sounds very hokey and like we say it a lot, but it is true. I would genuinely be like, your biggest strength in your application is, like, indelibly who you are, or at least that's kind of how it felt for me. They don't, there are a lot of people here who have similar work backgrounds, but are entirely different people, different experiences of life, and that is your biggest strength. I sound like a YouTube influencer, don't I? But it does feel that way a lot of the time. And I would just say that just basically be, try and be authentic, but remember that you're who you are is the greatest part of your application. This has been possibly one of the best 3 months of my entire life. I think I wrote in my diary the other day that I walked down the street feeling like I could fight a bear. So like, that's how it makes you feel being here. So if that doesn't make you want to apply, I don't know what will.
Oh, thank you so much to you all. Shajisa, Nus, Maureen, Hugh, and Motaz. It's been a pleasure hosting today's session with you all. Thank you to everyone that's joined. I appreciate our attendee list has dipped slightly because I've gone slightly over, because I do love to chat. But thank you all for joining today. I hope you've enjoyed the virtual open day sessions. If you've got any questions, our email is in the chat. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know our MBA students a little bit better, and hearing the insights from people who can give more of a personal perspective on the MBA journey. Thank you everyone for joining. Take care, and good luck to all those applying in stage 3. Thank you so much, and thank you to our panelists once again. Bye for now.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck. Bye.
All the best.